Why hello there fellow builders, Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to RimWorld The Darkest Ages. Episode 58. Pier side guard towers keep us safe. So who should go Goldilocksing? Maddock, McGee, Major, Mike. So if your name starts with an M, you're a Goldie Hunter. Okie dokie. And they are, interestingly, at the end of my hunting platform. Which really sucks for them. Because they're surrounded by water on all sides for the most part. Which is going to make it extremely easy to kill them. Roy, go close this gate. Oh, god damn it. Heat wave. So what I'm trying to do is like spread the wounds out so they move slower, so we can outrun them. Which I think I've done. Because the Goldilocks is by default move stupidly fast. Kind of like Thrumbo, where like you're not reasonably going to outrun them. Unless you wound them like this. Hold your ground! We can do it! Only one needs to there we go. Okay. Sweet. Now unfortunately the Goldilocks shearing gives good leather. Hunting only gives plain leather, so they're way better to tame, but I had no intention to tame them. Taming them gives you the their wool and milk. So had we tamed them, we would gain regal milk and gold wool, which is why they're valuable. But, you know, they're fun to shoot at. So, down they go. So all of the materials have been hauled out to this roofed watchtower. So let's continue working on the other ones. We'll do this one next. And I'll try to put the pathing out there, mostly on sand. Because the sand is not going to be worth anything for growing. What animal skill do you need to tame them? It's pretty high. I forget exactly what it is, but here, let me check. Animal tame. Minimal animal handling. I don't think I can check with dead ones. It's not a stat point that shows. So yeah, I don't know. You'll have to look it up yourself, sorry. It was high. Doesn't really matter, I wasn't ever going to tame them anyway. I wasn't entertaining the thought of taming them. So, whatever it is, it's moot. It's not my goal. I can barely keep my current animals fed. We have, like, nearly a shortage of hay, so adding more animals, yeah, that's out of the question. At least until it becomes a voted priority. Okay, so here's the benefit of, oh, and Nikolai, congrats. You are the newest porcupine. So I'll show you the benefits of that northern tower in just a second. Who is free? Sean, you're free-ish. So if we're zooming all the way out for line of sight, I'll stand off the tower, and you'll see the bonus. So here's as far as we can see. Basically to the shoreline. I stand in the tower, and now we can see out to here. Much further. Much further. It does not affect your shooting range. So I can see a lot farther than I can shoot. But that, if I had a guard standing here, I'd be able to see anything even remotely approaching. I basically would be able to see beyond my proximity detector. And that's the advantage of the towers. The towers still get line of sight blocked from bridges. So standing here, for instance, I have a small gap in line of sight. So if I do have a guard standing here, it should be on the right side of it. Or, you know, there's going to be some gaps. The other thing is mountains. Like these guys, small ones. I might want to mine out if they become line of sight blockers. There aren't a lot of line of sight blockers for this tower stander though. Like only this mountain, but like mining that entire mountain out is maybe not a reasonable thing to do. But regardless, the northern bridge is now done. The close zone, I also might need to update. Close should include here, but I'm going to, and this is going to take me a minute, I am going to have close not include the water, because there's not really a good reason for anyone to like go wading into the water. I might include a little bit of water so that they can swim as a recreation type, but I don't need to have, I don't need my like, oh, that's a mistake. Fix that. I don't need people on the closed zone to decide to swim here, because swimming here and then coming back into the base is like an unbelievable endeavor of travel distance. And RimWorld ponds are stupid, and we'll do that. And then have like 6 hours of swimming back to the base to contend with. So perhaps I'll just allow them to swim immediately around the pier. And that's reasonable in terms of zoning. And I'll set it up similarly for the other piers. This area is no longer all that close to the base, so I'm going to remove it, because I used to have a bridge there, but I don't anymore, so it's not safe for someone that does. Basically, the close zone I have here is for people that don't move very fast. So it's to make sure that the people set on the close zones don't get ambushed. In fact, you know what? I'm going to remove the close zone, duplicate the island zone, and call this close again, and then change the close zone to be a little bit more permissive, and this will save me some effort of painting. So, Sean, because he's infirm, and Klein, Roy, and Dory, because they wear heavy armor, are set to close zones. And the close zone is basically be close enough to the fort that if enemies enter from map edge, you can make it to cover. That's sort of the concept of the close zone. It's so that they can't be ambushed in a way where they can't escape within a reasonable amount of time. So they're allowed, like, you know, they're allowed to go out here a bit, but not that much farther because of movement speed penalties. Technically, this is like not a good spot for them at the moment, but it will be once we complete the project. You can make a short wall next to the sauna swimming area. Yeah, I mean, I could, what I could do is I could, like, include this, wall this up, and have this be, like, a swimming area? Sure. Once the watchtower projects are done, I could do that. I want to do the watchtower projects first, though, because, we're a wee bit vulnerable until the watchtowers are built. Because the base is open at the moment. So just like the other one, I was going to do a double castle gate here. As a guard airlock. I'm going to change it to tiles. The reason I'm keeping it in tiles is that the bridge looks like tiles, so it's just for the theme. Starvation. Yeah, that's a you problem though, bud. I do have some suffering from heat stroke because of the heat wave. Heat wave's real bad. I'm going to set another passive cooler up in here, I guess. The problem is the hearth is, you know, do I break? I'm going to leave the hearth alone. I can't extinguish it, though. Because it's modded. And once these are built, I can assign guard duty. But that will likely mean I will need to have nocturnal and diurnal pawns. Because there's kind of no point in having guards if you're only guarding during daylight hours. Because attacks don't just happen in daylight hours. So that's like a whole nother thing to solve. Eventually. Yeah, there was not much I could have done about this. A lot of these modifiers here are just like, pawns were busy. She decided to poop herself. That's not my problem. I don't think I'll even put barricades here. I don't think it's worth it. I think all it really serves to do is to be like walking path blockers. Are any monsters on the map? There's a red fox and a lynx, but nothing that I think is gonna harm us. I mean, technically a lynx could. Red foxes aren't gonna go at, because they're small, they're not gonna go after full-size adults. But lynxes could. I think the likelihood of that is rather low. Especially, it's really only dangerous when you've recently had a, like a toxic fallout, or a cold snap, or a heat wave that has... Technically, there's a heat wave right now, but where most of the small animals have left the map tile. Because something like the lynx just left, but something like a red fox is more likely to hunt small critters around here than they are to run all the way over to where my people are and hunt them. So the danger of, like, wargs are really dangerous during toxic fallouts because wargs are toxic fallout resistant, partially, which means they'll survive longer than most of the other animals that they eat. So what's left to eat? Colonists. Right, so there are times when you have to be really careful of predators. Because essentially, when their hunger hits a critical level, they'll find prey. And if there aren't small game nearby, because in RimWorld code, they only eat things smaller than them for the most part. So there's a pecking order. So like wolverines, for instance, are carnivores. Do I have any wolverines? No. Like badgers, for instance, do eat meat, raw meat, and corpses. But because they're so much smaller, body size, to people, they don't actually try to eat people. Because it's not reasonable for them to attempt that. Right? So because of that pecking order, you don't really have to worry about... You don't have to worry about herbivores. Because like a rhino or a megasloth or a bison or buffalo are herbivores. They're not going to try to eat people. And then the carnivores that are small aren't going to try to eat people because they're too small. Like raccoons or badgers, rats, etc. So you only really have to worry about the large carnivores that don't have a more easily accessible food source near them. And that really only occurs during extreme crises like cold snap, heat wave. Oh god, whatever. Cold snap, heat wave, toxic fallout, etc. Alright, we are getting close to being done with the southeast watchtower. Those poor Goldilocks. I mean, we had already hunted them. It was just their butchered meat that was rotting. They are long dead. Oh, I haven't seen Ambrosia in a while. Sometimes Randy decides to just like Ambrosia the hell out of you. I'm sure this has happened to you guys before as well. Where like you just have sprout after sprout after sprout. And then sometimes like, for whatever reason, the storyteller's just like, yeah, no, you're never getting Ambrosia. Even though it's valid. Apparently I have an Ambrosia 1 zone. It was, where is it? It's here? Yeah. Okay. Well, that'll be nice. At some point. Without freezers, it's not gonna last very long, but I don't mind having it. I think, yeah, the heat wave ended? Yeah, the heat wave ended. Okay, so let's not refuel that one. Ambrosia was on the ingredients list of the drafts, yes. Which one takes Ambrosia? The inspiration drafts? And I stopped trying to make the inspiration drafts because I just didn't have a reasonable way to source it. But that was the third most voted for draft for us to brew. So perhaps I try to brew if we end up with a source of Ambrosia available to us. Hey, Aubrey's back. And you, okay, no, you're different. I like how they showed up with the rot stink. On or whatever their name is. Because once a pawn leaves our map tile, they're in like stasis. Because they cease to exist. Like, so you could have, you know, a pawn could like have a bleed out timer of like 3 seconds and exit the map tile, and then re-enter the map tile, you know, sometime later with 3 seconds to live. That's just how RimWorld works. It's pretty funny. If you're wondering about our drug schedule, I don't believe we're scheduled to have ambrosia, but I could be wrong. Ooh, I forgot to do Dory's meal schedule and drug schedule. No, it's on our drug schedule. Just we don't have any. I don't, there's some downsides to the inspiration draft, which is why I haven't been using it. Because it's not all good. So I stopped trying to brew it because it comes at a cost. It's, you get inspiration, but at cost of diminished combat capabilities. And we don't really have the opportunity to go, hey, let's be inspired and not be able to fight in a colony like this. Because, wow, Dory, you really like chickens. I would have assumed you would have made a bunch of fish-based sculptures given your name, but apparently no. Quietude by Dory. On this piece is a representation of Dory huddled in the shade of a quarry with cracked dry lips. Hundreds of unmoving armadillos surround the scene, and the work seems to symbolize friendship. It relates to her getting heat stroke. Okie dokie. Apparently that was a pivotal moment for her, and she immortalized it in art. You know, like you do. My pen animals are hungry, and I am just completely out of things to feed them. I'm actually a little worried, because, I don't have a ton of corn, either. I have a lot of meat, so I could always rely on eating meat-based fine meals for myself. So I'm gonna offer them corn. But I need to do a better job of managing animal feed. So I arguably have not been doing a really good job of it, and it's showing. Rearing its ugly head. Okay, why is nobody building this? The other thing I could do is I could have these guys zoned to home so that they can build even outside of the close zone. I'll do that. That should help get the projects done. And just like we did on the other side, I'm going to flagstone up a path along the water to get to the guard tower, trying to avoid as much of the fertile soil as possible. So this path isn't perfect, but it's like good enough. Makes the project more expensive, but at the end of the day it will be better. Or prettier, at least. Maybe make pemmican for the animals. That would allow me to cut the corn with meat to expand upon it, but it would require a lot more cooking, and I only have 2 cooks, and they're already kind of busy. So I'd worry about doing that just because of the physical labor costs, essentially. Because my 2 cooks are both gut-wormed, so it's not like they're working fast as it is now. So adding even more for them to do in a given day, I don't think that's going to work. That might be a good solution, like, farther down the line, but if you're going to argue that way, you might as well make kibble, not pemmican, because kibble has better shelf life. And if we're going to be making kibble, I would then subsequently argue that it would be most beneficial if we have a unified dog zone so that the dogs can help manage haul the kibble. So if we're going to go to the labor costs of making the kibble, we might as well have the benefit of, like, having the kibble be managed by dogs and not humans. I would say. But we have enough corn for them for a bit. Plus, I could always have them freely roam the haygrass zone if we wanted. I just haven't done that yet because it wasn't voted on. That's always a possibility too. I don't know why they just, like, I guess we're out of steel. That's why. Never mind. I was wondering why they just, like, suddenly stopped one bridge and started working on the other. Some of the guests are getting charmed, surprisingly. I don't really know who's doing it. I could check. But, yeah, we kind of low-key suck at befriending people. Our social skills are horrible. There was a YouTube comment that mentioned that, and I was like, yeah, but maybe it makes sense canonically, because, the story of this series is we got banished here, and, like, it wouldn't be a stretch to say maybe we were banished because we had such horrid social skills that, like, the Imperial Justicars were just like, go away. Get lost. You guys are ruffians, and sent us to a dread forest to not have to deal with us. So maybe it makes sense that we have horrible social skills. The Isle of Introverts. It's better than the Isle of Perverts. You know? This isn't Epstein's Isle. What is everyone's age? I don't think anyone's young. Let's see. 37. 28 is the youngest, I think? Yeah. We only have one person who's in their 20s. Yeah, this is the Isle of old people. Myself, I obviously include. Surprisingly skewed elders. 39, 38, 41, 53, 28, 67, 48, 75, 36, 46, 37. Yeah, I would say as far as, like, RimWorld colonies go, this one skews old. The old guard. But, like, for real. And, like, I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm actually impressed that it's just a bunch of elders, especially given that because we're medieval, I don't really have technological fixes for age, right? So we've got, like, old scars and missing limbs and frailty and hearing loss and missing kidneys and, you know, and we're still at it. We're still surviving. Sort of like the... Oh, God. That's a mood. Sort of like the Night Watch of Game of Thrones. Most of the Night Watchmen were not spry chickens. John, maybe, but the rest of them... No, not really. Okay, we're missing the granite for the tower, but most of the southeast bridge is done too. They're very old for medieval times. You know, that's actually a common misconception. It's somewhat true that it was uncommon for people to live into their 70s in medieval times, but like 50s and 60s was kind of average if you made it past your first 5 years. infant mortality rates were quite high in medieval times. But if you made it past about 5, because, and this is my, like, layman understanding of medieval history, but I have read up on it a bit. Back then, you had a lot of dreadful diseases that were a big filter for children. So before you turned 5, you would have to survive like scarlet fever and typhoid and dysentery, and some of these diseases would reoccur, but even things like chickenpox could be deadly if not handled well. So you have all these like rubella, scarlet fever-like diseases that would kill children. And it was very difficult to get to 5 years old because these diseases could kill you. But once you became 5 years old, you mostly had the immunity that you needed to survive to adulthood. And of course, like you got sepsis and regular old diseases that could kill you in your latter years. But it was not that uncommon for people to live to 60, 70 or older. But generally past 70 was also kind of uncommon. So like the life expectancy, ignoring infancy mortality, was sort of like 50s, 60s. That wasn't too uncommon. And then childbirth. Childbirth was a big one. Mothers died, very, very frequently. But for a woman to live, if you made it past menopausal, you would live a normal life. But yeah, obviously, maternal mortality was a big problem then as well. Because surgery wasn't really a thing. C-sections weren't really a thing. Midwives were not good at what they did what they could for their times, but it was crude at best. All right, the southeast watchtower is nearly done. Okay, we have some hunger problems, and it is a result of not having fine meals. So I'm going to convert over to carnivore fine meals now. Oh, we're eating stupid things. How'd you even eat salted meat? Salted meat is not a meal. You're not even allowed to eat salted meat. You just did? You just decided I'm going to eat something I'm not allowed to eat? Interesting. Alright, so the carnivore fine meals is going to use salted meat. And if we're relying on meat-based diets, we're going to need to... Oh, no, don't sleep. Come on, I just told you to go over there. We're going to need to hunt more, probably. But yeah, for the longest time, we actually thought that, like, if you made it past childhood in medieval times, your likelihood of making it to, like, 70 or 80 was not very was typical. But I've actually seen, it was a recent white paper that did some analysis about that. And they're kind of revising, they think, like, mid-50s to mid-60s was kind of the average. And not much farther. I think that makes sense, though, because the human immune system really starts to take a hit around 70 or so, where people's ability to fend off infections and diseases and bacteria nosedives at around 70-ish, 65, 60. And of course, that's not considering the massive improvements of nutrition that we've had. I think we've been backsliding in nutrition, but around post-Victorian era, our nutrition dramatically improved. And then, the hyper-processed foods kind of screw that up a bit. But pre-Victorian era, the typical person did not have a good diet. All right, we're going to have to do a bit of a group hunt for bison and muffalo to make sure that we don't run out of food. And a lot of this is just compounded problems as a result of a cold snap into a heat wave. Cold snap killing the crops that we had sown early spring, and then a heat wave to make it so that the crops weren't growing well. So this was just an exceptionally bad year. It was not a typical year. All right, Avaka. Can I? Actually, it shouldn't be Avaka. Roy will be it. I'm going to borrow Roy, and we'll look at the line of sight benefits for the tower out here. So not in the tower. We can see about out to this rock. We can see the map edge on the south edge. That doesn't surprise me. Step into the tower. Honestly, this tower doesn't really help that much. It pushes the sight bubble to about here from here. But because of these mountains, there's not a big benefit. So there might be, as long as it's not overhead mountain, even if there's overhead mountain, we can stilt it with columns. There might be a reason to remove this mountain here, because this mountain does block a lot of line of sight. All of this. So that's something to consider. But that one's done. So now we just have one left. All right, Ginger. You're not really in the best of mood. But I'm going to need you to trade anyway. Where are they? Oh, no, this is a quest. Sorry, I thought it was a battle trader. Yeah, I don't think I'm helping you. That's a really fun reward, though. But still, you banished me to this island. This island I shall stay. Thank you for tuning in to RimWorld: The Darkest Ages, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you'd like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow Dread Knights.